welcome to
Okay.
Collegiate Conversations. This is a space for conversations of all shapes and sizes coming out of the Collegiate Church Network. Today, we're continuing a series of conversations on health, being healthy, and becoming healthier in all areas of life: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and relational. And today, we get to talk with Neil Kring, and we're excited just to hear some of what God's taught him about pursuing being healthy in different ways. So Neil, if I could just hand it off to you, could share a little bit about yourself, where you're serving, and maybe how long you've been there.
Okay. Yep. I'm Neil Kring, and I am at Ball State University and have been here for 27 years on staff. Been through several different iterations of the organizations that we work with here, and still here. Here I am, the picture of health too. So it's a good thing you got me on this interview today.
Well, there's something about 27 years. You know, that's older. You've been on staff probably longer than a good number of our collegiate staffers have been alive. So there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
That's a little weird to think about. Yeah, not
Yeah,
to
sure.
put too fine a point on it. But yeah, we're talking about health, and I'm just kind of curious. How do you think about that? Like, what are the ways that you think about that, just in general? And maybe could you just share how that's gone through your time in ministry, but also just in life? Could you
Yeah,
share a little bit
sure.
about that?
Health. Well, I've not always been the healthiest person, and probably still am not. Um, I've shared a lot over the years about struggles that I've had with mental health, and you know, uh, sometimes even because of that, I really like to eat food and eat a lot of food to drown my feelings away. So that kind of steps in, but I have tried to just do things over the years to stay engaged with those issues, I guess. Um, I've always tried to work out somewhat consistently, um, and uh, and that is as much of a battle as anything. Staying engaged with that. I mean, you wouldn't know that because you're a rower, so you guys, you know, that's a next level workout stuff. But
That was a long time ago at this point.
um, but staying engaged both with my body and staying engaged with my mind and staying engaged with people. I mean, I think those are the things that I have tried to do over the years, and those are the things that have helped me the most, and the Lord too. But the Lord is in all of those things. So
For sure.
yeah.
So when you say staying engaged, at what point did it become really clear that needed to be a more active step? Like, is there a moment where you realize, like, man, I really got to step into this a little bit more? And the word, I think of the word engage, it's a very active word. It's not, there's not nothing passive about engagement.
Yeah. I think the first, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years that I was in ministry, I would say I was just probably pretty oblivious to hard, difficult, challenging things that were ahead for me, or even I don't know, things in life were just rather easy, and I probably was not a very reflective person back in those days. And then some things happened here in ministry around 2000, or around those years, and I think those are the things that really started making me have to pay attention more to issues of health, specifically emotional health and mental health, because maybe I had to face some of those challenges in the past, like I was facing, and I had just become a pastor, so there was a whole next level of both responsibilities, but need for me to engage both with myself and in situations and stuff. And so I think that that's probably where I started kind of realizing, man, I need to pay attention to some of this. And I had good friends that did things like go to counseling, and so I started doing that, and pretty much have been doing that ever since. Counselors have gotten a lot of that reliant insurance money over the years um, from me. Um, but that, that has become as much of a like a practice as it has been like an urgent need at times. Um, but more, a lot of times I just continue going because I know that that's something that I need in order to engage or to kind of push into some of those areas for myself. I'm a really anxious person, and I didn't know that I was um, for, I don't know, the first 30 years of life. And then I think I've learned that over the years, and that's been increasingly made known to me. Um, and so those are things where I don't know. For me, I think it's just been necessary to have to engage with some of that. And I have good friends and stuff, so I've always tried to stay open with people, and even counselors and people I've seen have encouraged me to stay physically active as a way of continue to engage with mental and emotional struggles too. So, um, but yeah, I think that's been a long journey of walking through um, a lot of things that go on in my head that are both challenging and I mean, sure, some of it's just normal stuff.
Yeah.
But some of it are struggles that are unique to my own experiences and
Yeah.
my own unique struggles. So,
Yeah.
but I have always just, I don't know. I guess I'm an anxious person, but I also I don't want to miss out. So so I take a lot of risks too, and which makes me more anxious. But um, I can't not do that. So I think I've had to figure out I don't know. I had to figure out a way to manage that
Yeah.
over the years. So
Yeah. When it first, I guess, made sense to you that you were an anxious person, was that a hard thing to admit, to believe, or was it more of a, oh, everything makes sense now?
yeah, I think it was kind of challenging. I mean, there were people in my life, family members that I had diagnosed them as being anxious people, but I never thought of myself that way.
Hmm.
And so I think there was really some difficulty in um, both, I don't know, admitting that or accepting that. I remember a counselor that I saw a lot of years ago. She did some little diagnosis, mental health test or something like that, and she was like, "Well, if you had answered, 3 out of 5 of these questions, then you would technically have an anxiety disorder, but you answered yes to all of them. Um, so she goes, whatever that means, that doesn't have to necessarily mean anything, um, but yeah, anxiety, that is going to be something that you're going to continue to wrestle and struggle with, throughout life, and that really has been true. So
Yeah.
especially during this, gosh, during these last 8 months or 9 months, I thought I've woken up every day thinking I have COVID. And it's kind of funny to say it, and everyone laughs. But it is actually true. I convince myself at some point during the day that I have some symptom, and now have COVID,
Yeah.
and I'm going to infect everyone around me and all that kind of stuff. But I actually haven't even been sick, which is the funny thing. Um, not once since March, but it's all a mental game. So, um, but I've tried to continue to see a counselor, throughout this time to be able to talk about that stuff. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just talking to people. Sometimes it's just talking to friends and hearing the things that come out of my mouth, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, my mind's a little out there right now. It's not
Yeah.
quite,
Yeah.
not quite maybe where it could be, or where or where it would
Yeah.
be helpful for it to be. So
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of us can relate in this time where we're like, I think
yeah,
spending a lot more time with ourselves.
yeah,
So that's helpful to
yeah, for
hear.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, and also because I'm I don't know, maybe it's some of the things that I have been doing over the last several years down in my neighborhood. Um, I've been with people like constantly, um, since the very beginning of this. Like everyone else was kind of holed up in their houses, and I was out passing out food and checking on people and knocking on doors and doing those kinds of things where I'm like exposed to people and exposing people to me too. So that also kind of compounded some of the anxious struggles in
Sure.
the middle of that too. So,
Sure.
but
Sure. So what does it look like when I don't even know how you would quantify this, but what would it look like when you are in a really healthy space? If you talk to someone who's a fitness nut, they can tell you when they're in their healthy kind of
mm,
groove, right? What does that look like for you to kind of say, I'm in a pretty healthy spot right now? Or what are some of the things that you notice when you're not?
um, well, the things that I notice when I'm not, I can tell you what those things are. Um, I have intense, anxious, out of control dreams, you
Mm,
know, and wake up just completely not at rest, and not at peace, racing thoughts, and having a real hard time, like, calming myself down, um, and not eating. I mean, I lost like 15 pounds in a week right at the beginning of the COVID
well,
thing. Um, Now I had 15 pounds to lose. That was not the challenging part, but I just, had no appetite and was just pacing around all the time and really like wrestling mentally. Um, so a lot of it is just those thoughts that are cyclical that just keep circling around in my head. That's usually when I know. And it's always someone close to me, my wife or a friend or someone who's like, hey, it can be helpful for you to go talk to someone. And of course, I always know that it would be, but sometimes I don't want to. I think, oh, it'll go away or I'll start feeling better or whatever. But usually someone reminds me, like, hey, be helpful if you called up David, your counselor, and started having some conversations about how you're doing. And that's what happened early on in COVID. Kelly was My wife, Kelly. She was like, I think you should call David. And it's never. I mean, it's happened so many times, in our relationship, that it's never like, oh gosh, I can't believe she called me out for this. But it's more like, yeah, I know. I should have thought of that myself
yeah.
and done it, because I know that I'm not in a very good place right now. Um, so anyway, and I, unlike some people when they're really struggling emotionally, I'm just completely active. So from like morning till midnight, I was doing something, frantically doing something. In my backyard, I have these garden beds that I built. I have never gardened in my life. And I have these garden beds. I built this big outdoor space. I put rain barrels in, and that was all just on frantic, anxious, nervous energy, of feeling like I didn't have anything to do, and it felt hard to just kind of sit and be okay with my thoughts and stuff like that. So um, it was nice. I got a lot done. We completely remodeled our kitchen. We remodeled a bathroom. So we've done all these things, but some of it has probably come out of like just not being able to rest
Yeah.
or be at peace. So, but I had an amazing garden though. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had like man, I grew so much stuff, and I've never even done it before. People are like, "What's your secret?" And I was like, "I think it's anxious energy
Yeah.
that will help you be a great green thumb." Apparently.
Yeah, just like I gotta focus on something because I don't want to think about what's going on
Yeah.
internal. And
Right.
I can relate a little bit with that.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yep. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that was a lot of the kind of the early days in March and April. And then because of some of the roles that I have of things that I'm doing in my neighborhood, I still was expected to be certain places and do certain things. I certainly would have had freedom not to, but I I wanted to get out and do stuff. So we were organizing food deliveries for some of the neighbors that I have that are kind of struggling, and we were checking on people that are kind of isolated and alone, and praying with people and doing things like that in those first couple of months when people were more isolated.
Hmm.
And so that was also good. I mean, to have something to do,
Yeah.
um, and then a lot actually has come out of those connections too. We're having some conversations with some folks in our neighborhood about um, doing some addictions work for some of the folks that are struggling with addiction in our community, and we're doing some specific things related to folks that are homeless right now in our neighborhood. And but those have all come out of relationships that some of them that we just kind of started developing at the beginning of COVID, and some of it was because I just had more time. I mean,
Yeah.
any of us that were in campus ministry, at least here, none of us were just going crazy with having so much to do. Um, there was a lot more time for other things,
Yeah.
and I guess my other things were just stuff that was happening out here on the streets
Yeah.
in my community. So,
Yeah. Man, I appreciate your honesty. And I think as long as I've had interactions with you and even just getting to hear you share different things throughout the years and even now, just appreciate that. And it's making me wonder and rethink health in some ways. Cause I think health can sort of just be this thing of like, oh, I'm a healthy person. And it can almost add to a
mm,
false facade of things when
mm,
really I hear, yeah, you have a garden and you remodeled things, and maybe like some of the driver of that wasn't great, but you're also out there with
mhm,
people. And I I'm wondering, maybe you've noticed this, like how in some ways has, I don't want to say necessarily unhealthy, but your struggles with these different areas of being healthy, does it seem to help you relate with people better? Like, does this help you just be honest of just like be like,
mhm,
I've got it seems like there's a gift of like, I'm struggling too.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, when uh, I think that's true. Um, Seeing my own struggles with myself have it has helped me connect and relate with people whose life experiences are very, very different from mine,
Hmm.
you know. So I have, and this really hasn't been true except maybe over the last 3 years or something. I mean, I have homeless friends now, and like we know each other and we hang out, we talk, and we go get food together. There was a group of people. My family was gone over Thanksgiving, and met people in front of my house, and we walked down to the mission and got food, and then came back to my garage and sat and ate it in my garage. And all of the, some of the folks that were there had been in prison, some of them have addiction issues, some of them there was one of our fellow staff members that was with us, and another person that's a student at Ball State. And so it's like a real mix of people. But I think when it comes right down to it, I think we all share so many different ways of thinking and share similar struggles. They just kind of manifest themselves differently for all of us. For some people, it leads them to, kind of losing so much in life through addiction, or through sexual experiences, or through maybe they become homeless because of those issues. But I think when I find that I have conversations with people, like we're actually talking about the same things. We're talking about the same struggles. Mine are not really that different from some of the struggles that they're facing. We just maybe I was raised with different values, or I've been shielded in some way from some of those things. But it's real easy. Starting last week and for the next 2 months, I'm working over at an agency here in town that helps folks that are out on the streets. And I find it really easy to just sit down and talk with folks that come in there. And all I'm doing is like folding clothes and putting away, stacking furniture, and, going out on runs to do whatever they need me to do. But the people that are there, and I think are there for various different reasons. And sometimes they just are showing up for a cup of coffee. Sometimes they're showing up to talk to a caseworker, or maybe they're trying to get some sort of process for housing lined up. But when we sit down and talk, like, I don't know, I find it real easy for us to connect, because our lives probably really aren't too different.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a long way of answering your question, but I do think that it is helpful in connecting with folks. And of course, over the years, as I have opened up and shared about my struggles, young people, I think, can feel, at least when people come talk to me, I think they feel connected with those issues and their own experience too. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would not describe myself. I don't think I would describe myself as a healthy person. I would, but I do think that part of health is recognizing and acknowledging some of the things that are going on inside of us, and then being willing to step into those things, whatever they are, or however scary those things might be. So that's what I try to do. I don't always do a good job of it, but sometimes the people around me have to kind of urge me to engage with some of those issues. But
yeah, that's really good. Thanks for that, Neil. I'm sure there's a lot, but what recently do you feel like the Lord's just been leading you into and helping you understand in these different times?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the thing that I constantly desire from the Lord, and the thing that He continually gives me, is just peace and comfort. Being reminded that I'm not alone, and that I'm not a complete failure, or whatever I'm telling myself in my head. And those have been, I mean, that isn't in the recent past. That's in the last 10 years, you know, like those are the things that I'm constantly coming back to. Um, but I think in that, I think the Lord also reminds me that that I can be a comfort to others too, you know. So not only do I need that, but I can step into other people's situations and remind them that there's peace, there's hope, there's comfort to be had for them too. I think my headphones are about to die, so I can. It'll probably just change the sound because I'm kind of half
All
outside,
right. No
so
worries. No worries.
there'll be extra noises.
That's all good.
Um,
That's all good.
but yeah, those are the things. If you asked me 5 years ago, those were probably the same things I was thinking about 5 years ago too. But especially during this time, those have been real important for me in the midst of a world that I think has heightened anxiety for a lot of different reasons. Um, I think there is a need for us to find places with the Lord to receive comfort and to be reminded that we're not alone and that, you know, because we're with Him, it's gonna, like, everything may not work out the way we want it to work out, but we're gonna be okay. And I know I need that, but I also know from the people that I talk with, whether it's our other staff on our staff team or students that are in our ministry or my neighbors, that's what we all need, is the reminder that that God is God is with us and He's good and we're going to be okay. And again, what that means, I think, is very different. You know, um, our situations may actually not be okay, but we're going to be okay because we're loved and we can have peace in the midst of that, and we can be content in the circumstances that we're in, and we can find hope,
Yeah.
not just for the future, but even for today. So anyway, those are some of the things that I think for me have just been continuing to speak to me, and these, I don't know, these 8 months have provided plenty of opportunity to have to dig into that stuff too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it resonates a lot with me.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, what advice or counsel would you give to others in Collegiate based on what God's been giving you in this time? Like, would there just be a word of encouragement, or what would you have that you could offer to others?
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I think the big thing is, which hopefully this is what we all want to do anyway, which is don't run away from our issues. You know, like, we are going to be better ministers of the gospel if we're willing to engage in the hard things in our life, and we all have hard stuff, you know. So it's not there's not just a certain group of us with certain sets of issues that have a harder time. We all have difficult things in life, and if we don't right now, we will, you know. So having a willingness to dive into those things and just say, you know what, like, it's scary to have to face either things from my past or to have to face you know, either things that have happened or thoughts that I have, but we're going to be at so much better of a place if we're willing to dive into that. And sometimes we can't do that by ourselves. We need help from other people to do that, from friends, from other maybe coworkers or counselors or friends outside of our ministry connections. But I think that's for me, that has felt like a better way of living and being being a minister of the gospel, rather than just thinking, oh, someday I'll deal with that or whatever. So I'm too anxious of a person not to deal with it. So for me, it just kind of comes out. But I know some of my friends, that they have to make much more intentional choices to be willing to engage in hard things when everything on the surface, kind of feels like it's going okay. So that's a thing. Another thing that, man, this has been lately for me. I mean, I think I've just been thinking a lot about this, about just because of the ministry experiences that we've all had and the things that we've been exposed to over the years, just how much that we all have to offer to the world. And I'm not just saying to students on campus or to our coworkers, but to folks who are really struggling in this world too. And I have really enjoyed connecting in the community. I mean, it's a part of my role as a pastor now, is to do a lot of things in my neighborhood, and I just feel like the things that I have learned in campus ministry really prepared me to just learn how to make friends with people and to build relationships, and to be willing to just dive into the things that folks are struggling with and are wrestling with in all sorts of different places. Whether that's, for me, I spend time with people that are on the streets. I spend time with people with, I have friends that are on meth, and that are just struggling and wrestling with those kind of things. But, I just think, well, there's still like really good work there. And the work is just friendship and discipleship. It's all the things that we've always done on campus, and we can do that with our neighbors or with the people who live across the street or some other person that we've met or whatever. And so that's the thing that I'm, for me, I'm thinking about that and trying to understand what does that mean for me? Do I just keep I'm in all these different worlds and keep doing that? I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it's been a unique opportunity to be able to learn and grow and experience so much from a lot of the people that have built into my life over the years. So
yeah,
cool.
there's so much good stuff there, and we weren't trying to keep this to a half hour. We just keep this rolling. But thanks a ton, Neil, for what you have shared. And
Sure.
maybe we'll have to figure out a follow-up at some time. But before I let you go, we've got just a couple what we're calling quick hitter questions that don't need to be connected to anything we've talked about so far, and they can just be short answers. But first one is, who or what is inspiring you right now?
Oh, right now I'm reading this Scott Erickson Advent book, which has been really
Honest
good.
Advent?
I like it.
Yeah. My wife and
that's been really good. I read that every morning. There's always some little thing in there that is kind of, I don't know, inspires me for the day and what I'm thinking about. So that's been one thing.
Very good. Very good. Who is someone else in Collegiate that you think we should talk to, and what should we talk with them about?
Oh, well, probably Carl about the theater. I mean, because if he hasn't talked to you about the theater, then that means you haven't talked with him yet, because that's all that guy's talking about is the theater. So maybe Carl, he'd be a great person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I had a great conversation with Jim Pace a couple of weeks ago. Man, well, we're good friends and we've known each other and we've co-directed LTs and stuff like that back in the day. But man, we had such a great conversation. He'd be a good person to talk to too.
All right. Very good. Very good. Yeah. What is one song or artist you would recommend right now?
You know what? I don't listen to a lot of music.
Okay.
Um, so I mean, I do listen to music, but a lot of times just kind of in the background. But um, I'm not a I'm not a very deep person when it comes to music, so I probably don't have any good
That's all right.
recommendations. You know, there was one song that I was listening to the other day, and I got like super emotional while I was listening to it. And it's a song by, I think it's Foy Vance, and it's called Gabriel the Vagabond. And in this season where I've been connecting with some homeless folks in our community, um, that song was like super powerful to me. Like in a moment, I don't remember where I first heard that song, but I listened to it and it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of broke me. But so that's a song, I guess.
That's a
You
song.
could
All
listen
right. Sounds great. Sounds great.
Yeah.
And lastly, what is one thing that you think everyone should try at least one time?
Oh man. Hmm. What's something? Um, um, oh gosh, man, what a good question. I don't know. So many things you should try. Um, um, gosh, I don't know, like adventure type thing
It doesn't
or
matter.
anything.
We
Anything.
we had one person say tofu. We had one person
Mm,
say silence and solitude. We have any. It could be anything.
yeah. Okay. Maybe like I went backpacking this summer in Montana, and that you should do that.
Okay.
Multiple day backpacking trip way out in the mountains with some dudes and grizzly bears.
All right.
That is and mountain goats too. My
All right.
gosh, we got like attacked by not attacked, but they wouldn't leave us alone. They like followed us, and they everywhere we peed, they ate all of the grass that we peed on, and that was crazy. But
All right.
definitely Montana. That's
All right.
something.
Were you up
Yeah.
in Glacier?
No, we were outside of Yellowstone in the Beartooth
Oh yeah.
Wilderness.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
good.
that was wild. That was
Yeah.
cool.
Very cool.
So,
Very cool.
yep.
All right. Well, everybody, this has been a little bit of conversation with Neil Kring. Neil, thanks again for your stories, your wisdom, and just openly and honestly sharing your life with us. And Collegiate, thanks for checking this conversation out, and we'll see you again next time.
All right.